everyone. Very glad to have you with us today as we go through the liquid staking ecosystem, looking at where we are right now, assessing how far we've come with this, and then giving some insight into what we can expect for 2024, some innovations, some challenges, and what we can see for the ecosystem to evolve. To kick it off, I'll give an intro of myself before I introduce my team members. Jozef Vogel, I'm with Ether.fi, which is a non-custodial liquid staking protocol on the Ethereum network and soon to be a natively restaked protocol, which I think we'll kind of touch on today as well with restaking more broadly. Before that, I was with the Aave companies. So I'll pass it off to my fellow panelists to give themselves a quick intro.
Hello everyone, I'm Christian. I'm growth manager for Bifrost Finance. Bifrost Finance is a liquid staking protocol built and secured on Polkadot, Kusama, but we are also active on other ecosystems such as Ethereum and Filecoin and much more.
Hi everyone, my name is Nico. I'm the CTO at Tenderize. We build validator-specific liquid staking for Polygon, the Graph, and LivePeer at the moment, and ETH coming in 2024. And before that, I was an engineer at LivePeer for a few years.
So, hi everyone, my name is Jason. I'm the CTO and co-founder at Puffer Finance. So we're doing Ethereum liquid staking with deep eigenlayer integrations.
Cool, thanks guys. So we're all, I guess, have a different approach to liquid staking. I think it's quite important, maybe just initially, we can kind of set the stage as to how the liquid staking market has evolved, how our protocols kind of fit within that structure. So I'll maybe pass it off here.
Sure thing. Well, I believe that over 2023, liquid staking had a massive and I would say even unexpected growth on a certain side. Like it was one of the few DeFi topic that was like on top of the wave for so many months. Actually on Polkadot, we saw an increase of interest of retail users into the product that was like really stunned us. I can tell you that, for example, we had like this massive increase of interest over the last summer, and it was like due to this fact that we keep pushed like proposing more and more use cases for liquid staking token, because we do really believe it has like a lot of advantages, and it kind of like amazed us, this amount of interest despite the market that wasn't like big at its heights over the last year. So we are pretty happy with it.
I think fundamentally, if we look at the design level of liquid staking, it hasn't changed that much over the past few months or the past year. What has changed a lot is indeed the visibility and the heated discussions we've had over the recent months, for better or for worse. I think there were definitely some good points made in those, and that can drive the space forward in the year to come. But fundamentally, I think we haven't seen a lot of change except for integrations for existing protocols. That has slightly increased. We've had restaking with eigenlayer. But yeah, I think we need to also update the liquid staking designs a little bit going forward.
Awesome. I think from the Ethereum point of view, it's been a pretty crazy year. I guess like Marin had mentioned in the last panel, like post-merge, I think there's a lot like more room for people to breathe, knowing that we made this transition. And that really led to a lot more protocols emerging, like liquid staking protocols on the Ethereum side. And then post-Shapella, especially once we got withdrawals, that really allows for like more and more diversity, allows for more liquidity to flow between these protocols. And we've kind of seen a lot of these narratives coming to play, a lot around DVT, anti-slashers, and now eigenlayer restaking being another large topic, like going into 2024.
Yeah, I think you mentioned DVT, and we've seen a lot of good presentations today on distributed validator sets. I would say that's been a really good evolution within the staking market. I think we've seen a lot of adoption there, and we've seen that tech come a very long way from, I guess, just even looking at the beginning of this year, where it was just almost a proof of concept, to now we're actually proposing mainnet blocks using DVT technology. So it's good to see that, and it's good to see also, I guess, the DeFi ecosystem that is built around these liquid staking protocols. I think there's a lot of new protocols that have come forward that now allow a lot more utility with staking tokens. So I think that's another really interesting thing that we've seen a lot of growth with. Just as everyone starts to build in the bear market, it was a really good product to really solidify. So, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to mention that like utility is really the key word in this sense, because as Nico was mentioned before, there wasn't like any kind of like massive change in the product itself, like, but the visibility came with like an increase of utility of these liquid staking tokens. Because maybe 1 year ago, what can you do like with your liquid stake token was just maybe using within the protocol, or maybe like with some kind of other like partner protocol through some bridge or something like that. The increase of attention in the product really is also like the possibility to come up with partnership, increasing use cases of these tokens, increasing the interoperability, the possibility of users, and end of the day, this is something that really drives adoption in the long term.
Yeah, you've seen some really good products built out of that too, just by extracting yield or whatever you can do with these different products. So I guess if we look now at liquid staking protocols, looking ahead within the next couple of months, what are a few of the major milestones that we're looking to achieve? What are some of the major challenges that are there right now that we hope to achieve and succeed in addressing over these next, I guess, short-term timeline?
Sure, I could take that.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, I think really one of the major milestones we want to see as an industry is sort of a movement towards decentralization, to have like a healthy dose of competitive liquid staking protocols as we move into the long term. And I think there's kind of a handful of like technical issues in getting there, and one of them, like the main one, would be how do we improve the sort of viability and profitability of nodes, like validators, especially ones running at home that don't have as much capital to spend. So like capital efficiency being one of the major issues. And I think things like DVT are ways like to allow people to reduce the bond requirements, split it up multiple ways. At Puffer, we're introducing anti-slashing hardware as a way to reduce the bond without requiring you to cooperate with other nodes. And there's like, again, the eigenlayer narrative of now there being additional forms of yield to supplement the income of these validators, and these all being different ways to increase their profitability and like increase their profit margins. And I think teams that are tackling that are like necessary for us to like keep some semblance of decentralization within the validator set.
Yeah, good points about profitability for home stakers. That's definitely an important one. I think for me, my opinion is that the biggest milestones we can achieve are credible neutrality and decentralization, as you also mentioned. The question we get a lot from validators today or node operators on networks other than ETH is, can we use liquid staking ourselves, or can our clients use this? And the answer up until today has been no. Despite these people being probably one of the most important stakeholders of these networks, being the ones that operate them, they are not able to participate. And I think if we want to drive liquid staking forward as an industry, those user groups definitely need to be included in liquid staking as well.
Yeah, and on top of like the technical topics brought up by my colleague, I do believe that on my end, like working for a Polkadot parachain, the milestone we are trying to achieve, we already started to work on that, was like to kind of lower the threshold for user. Either they are like retail users, investor, like so different kind of like approaches to the market. Is to lower the threshold to access this product, like liquid staking product, trying to make sort of one-click dApp in order to make the experience effortless, because end of the day, as I do believe, like being a growth marketer, a growth manager, it's important to have like a great product which works, but it's also important that this product can reach people in a seamless and effortless way. Otherwise, when like you lack the adoption, and I'm not talking about mass adoption, I'm talking about like crypto professionals and people in the ecosystem adoption, then you have a problem. So this is something that we put it there as a goal for the next year, to make this whole experience with Bifrost easier, more secure if possible, and even more accessible to everyone, basically.
Yeah, I think more user adoption and making it a very seamless transition is always important. I guess, Nico, you mentioned bringing on all these different users. I guess how do we approach that? Or yeah, what's the solution or potential solution to that challenge?
Yeah, so I think we're tackling that in our own way, which is building validator-specific liquid stake tokens. So any validator on, let's say, Polygon can have its own liquid stake token for itself and its delegators, very similar to how staking actually worked before liquid staking ever came around. Like, if you wanted to stake on Polygon or other networks, you would select a validator of your choice, you would vet the list, you would check for APY or reliability, whatever characteristics are important to you, and then you would stake your Matic to that specific node. And I feel like liquid staking has kind of lost that along the way, and that's what we are trying to bring back, is that native experience.
Yeah, and I think I guess that's what a lot of the different technology that's building that foundational layer is going to help us achieve. But I'm finding it is quite difficult. I guess there's a lot of issues along that path. Like, I guess it is the path of most resistance, if I had to put it that way, but it's a path that we need to take for decentralization to move forward. But as far as latency goes, internet speed for home node stakers, it can be very difficult to rival what the counterparty basically does if we look at what AWS servers are or any of the centralized structures that are running these data nodes. So I think, I guess, Jason, if maybe you have some input on how you see the home node or staker community trying to evolve.
Yeah, so actually one of the new pieces of research we just put out at Puffer on ETH research the other day is what we're calling smoothing commitments. So it's kind of a reframing of how people are doing bonds for their validators. So of course, Puffer is permissionless, so we're requiring you to put down a bond to run a validator, similar to Ether.fi, Rocket Pool, etc. But the difference here is actually it changes the incentives if you're having the validators actually pay a fee up front for the close to the expected value of what they're going to be making over the course of a certain duration. And what this allows you to do is actually decouple the performance of your validators from the actual LST rewards. And so like a mechanism like this would allow for home stakers that may not be performing quite as well as like professional node operator to join the protocol without fear of being ejected for underperforming.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, actually, I think the project I used to work on, LivePeer, is an interesting case study here, despite not being ETH, but it has a network with a lot of home node operators. There are very little figments, block daemons, or whatever on that network, because of the fact that these home stakers or indie operators like myself am on the network, on the LivePeer network, they were able to build services and add value that these professional operators weren't able to do, because they move a little bit slower, they have more overhead that they need to take care of. And what you actually saw was that these home operators with their value-added services are now the majority of the node operators on the LivePeer network, and have actually competed out the professional node operators that didn't really care too deeply about running the necessary infrastructure like GPUs. So I think for that, I think the same applies to Ethereum home stakers. Move fast, break things, and add value, and you can receive a lot of contributions from the community in that way as well, in terms of stake.
Yeah, we actually, just recollecting what Nico just mentioned, on Bifrost, it's been up since a while now. We have this, it's called node collator screening, and basically it is an algorithm that constantly check on the performance, on the efficiency of those validators kind of like making them compete to each other within the Polkadot ecosystem in order to reallocate on a daily basis funds from users that invest with Bifrost, because as always, like being a decentralized company, we do not own any kind of token. We just redirect the liquid staking directly into validators. And basically, based on their performance, the amount of tokens is reallocated on a daily basis in order to allow users to have the best performance out there. And on a user perspective, we actually try to make this very intuitive, I would say, very easy to use. We actually just came up with a new palette, because if some of you is not familiar with the Polkadot ecosystem, a palette is basically a smart contract which runs behind the curtains, let's say. And with this, is called SLPX, which is a palette that is a cross-chain asynchronous interoperability palette. Basically gives the possibility to user to interact with the palette, and then it's just the palette that takes care of all the liquid staking of the token. Before it was like pretty complicated, not complicated, but I would say long. The whole process of liquid staking on Polkadot, we wanted to make it smoother for everyone that is maybe not like a genius with a computer and doesn't have like the capacity to run, I don't know, code or go through any kind of smart contract in order to access the product in the easiest way possible, and the palette does all the work for them actually.
I just want one last point on like the node operator, like at-home validator performance. I think this is something that the community is constantly innovating on, because we kind of saw this play back a couple years ago with MEV being this like centralizing force, and this fear that like that will completely centralize the validator set because of the economies of scales you get with MEV. And then now we see things like MEV Boost as software coming out that allows like at-home stakers to earn as much as like professional nodes in terms of in MEV. And so I think on that note, like actually yesterday, Drew from Brevin Howard Vanderwerth released some research that I collaborated with him on for an optimistic delegation framework. The idea being, as we move into this eigenlayer-centric world, there's going to be a lot of these different restaking services that are kind of too heavy for at-home stakers to run. And this being like a sidecar similar to MEV Boost to allow these at-home stakers to benefit from these yield opportunities without actually like running it themselves, like delegating it to someone else. So on that note, I just think that like the community will continue to produce these like innovations to help the at-home stakers compete.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a good point to make. I think it's come a long way and very optimistic that we'll get there. I guess on that point, you kind of did mention a little bit about restaking. Maybe we can dive into that a little bit and just, I guess, broadly some innovation that we expect to see within the space over the next year. I would think restaking is one of them. So maybe if you want to just kick it off and give us a bit of context.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's going to be a very mixed year, I think. Like we're seeing EIP 7514 is going to be released in the next update, and that's really going to slow the number of validators that are able to join the beacon chain. And this is going to really put a halt on the growth of new and existing protocols. So I think putting that next to like maybe the market is heating up, and that kind of means more execution rewards and MEV for validators and more interest in staking. And so those two dynamics kind of contrast with each other. And when you layer on eigenlayer coming to market, like I think they're planning for Q1 or Q2 next year, that's like another source of yield for these validators and more interest in the actual staking side of things. So yeah, definitely like all these dynamics are kind of working against each other. It's kind of interesting to see how it's going to play out.
I have less of an opinion on eigenlayer. Kind of waiting to see how it will play out. I'm not sure if the restaking narrative will fully take off as everyone is kind of expecting it to. I think there's a lot of synergy possible between restaking and LSTs. But that's kind of where my opinion ends on this.
Can you steel man the other side of the argument?
Sorry.
Can you give us the other side of the argument? I guess if you want to elaborate on, I guess what might be are the risks associated with that, or how you see, I guess that within the stack. And
for me, it's more like what services will have a demand for restaking that I'm looking at, rather than like arguments pro and contra. I'm just like waiting to see like how will this actually be used, by who will this be used, and what will the actual increase in revenue for restaking validators to some of these services be. And I think that will decide a lot of whether this will be viable or not.
No, I completely agree on the restaking view. It is something that, of course, is going to be kind of like under like a light of the first 2 quarters of the next year for sure. Everyone is like talking about it. It's more or less like DVT, as you mentioned 6 months ago, and now is at this stage that we saw today, like with so many protocols and people involved and interested in it. But of course, end of the day, it comes to is like usability, like what kind of benefit does it bring to the ecosystem? On our end, we are trying to implement as much as use cases as possible for users, like stronger, like putting in place a lot of partnerships with protocols within the Polkadot ecosystem and outside the Polkadot ecosystem, like for example Eigenlayer, as they mentioned before, in order to expand the use cases of LST at the moment. One of them, of course, it could be like the possible of restaking from validators, but the others are like using this token as they are, like in our case, standardized token. They can be used seamlessly cross-chain, and it's basically at that point is up to the user to decide what kind of like, what is the best use of their LST without like put too many strain on that from our side. So I'm pretty curious actually of the outcome. I'm pretty confident that it's gonna be an interesting outcome.
Yeah, I think so. Whenever there's more yield involved, I think it really drives people to try to figure out innovative ways to work with it. So I think we'll maybe see some innovation driven by that side.
No, yeah, it just it's obviously is liquid staking. One of its like, of course, pinpoint is the yield, but it's also like what can you do with your liquidity that is unlocked thanks of your liquid staking, because you are contributing to the security of the chain, staking your token on the proof of stake chain, but then in the meantime, you can use it, I don't know, as a collateral on a particular parachain. I'm saying parachain because I'm thinking about Polkadot, but I would say blockchain, or like as part of a lending and borrowing strategy. Basically, it opens up a world of possibilities that basically, like, if you think about it, only 2 years ago, it wasn't even like, possible to think about it. And this is what I really like about this ecosystem that is moving so fast. And what is new now, in a year, it's going to be something that has been developed by thousands of people and built on by hundreds of protocols. So I'm confident, I told you.
Yeah, for sure. As we're kind of wrapping up here, I think I want to just give each of our panelists just the opportunity to kind of give us a look ahead into next year, anything that we kind of missed, where you see the landscape moving to, and just give us a bit of insights on what we can expect.
Yeah, I can take that. So again, yeah, I'm going to keep talking about restaking. I think that's like a big narrative. I think I'm really excited to see how all of these DVT protocols like OBOL, SSV, they're now at mainnet phase, and we can really see how that performance plays out over like a wider time span on like the actual mainnet. And I guess with Puffer, we're doing a lot of anti-slashing hardware, and we're trying to release different hardware modules there to diversify on that front. And I'm really excited about the actual interplay and composability between DVT and these anti-slashers as like, I guess, a super anti-slasher. Yeah, but yeah, I guess it's my 2024 forecast.
I'm looking forward to see more decentralization and credible neutrality in liquid staking in the coming months. I think our validator-specific approach could definitely contribute to that. It is something that, as you mentioned, is definitely a path of more resistance than going along with the current trend. But we are seeing real demand for it from validators and their clients. And if it takes off, I think it could also drive a big change in how liquid staking integrations with DeFi and other things look like. Oh, by the way, our testnet is live at cooking.tenderize.me. Go check it out.
No, yeah, on our side, like for the next year, we are focusing on like more or less what has been discussed today. Plus, I want to mention that we are also looking into the DVT solution with our partner SSV Network, which by chance they were like just close by our booth today. And in general, like being, as Bifrost used to call itself, like omni-chain liquid staking, our main goal is to bring liquid staking on more chain. Like, for example, we have on the roadmap, if you can see on our website, like Cosmos and even Polygon, actually. And allow users to actually use those standardized assets freely cross-chain. Now, maybe in the next month, we will see like the Snow Bridge, which will be like a very interesting tool to connect Polkadot and Ethereum and like, you know, access both ecosystem from like both sides. It would be very beneficial for Ethereum users that are gonna experience more use cases on Polkadot, and for Polkadot users that can benefit from the liquidity presence on Ethereum. So it's very busy. It's interesting. I can't wait for that. And congrats for the mainnet.
I have one more thing to add, what you also mentioned. I hope liquid staking or the discussions around staking next year evolve a little bit or revolve a little less around only ETH, but also take into account Polygon and other networks, for example, physical infrastructure networks like Livepeer, The Graph, that have been around for a while, that have staking for their node operator sets, and are providing value-added services to the community for quite a while now. So.
Yeah, I think I would agree with everything said here. Very focused on restaking broadly. I'm very curious to see how that starts to evolve. I guess our ETH is launching as a natively restaked token very shortly. So I'm excited to see that get to market. And then also on the DVT side, starting to onboard more solo stakers, starting to see this technology become something that we can rely on, and see how this community just continues to build itself up and help one another. So yeah, thank you everybody. That's all we have.